So I get quite a few questions about how I program my drums. So I primarily use Addictive Drums for the bulk of my production. I like to mix a little bit of Addictive Drums plus like some other digital drums that I might have. I think it's just another way to add a little bit more character to your drums. So today we're going to get into it. I'm going to show you guys exactly how I have my drums set up, the plugins that I use, along with how I actually program certain things like snare rolls, velocities, and we're going to do this all in Ableton too. So let's get into it. All right, so let's get into it. So I'm gonna show you guys what I did for my record 1993 that I just put out for my project, A Few More Ideas. It's called something light up here, ignore that. I called it something light when I made it. So all of these drums that you're gonna hear are all programmed in Addictive Drums. Also, before I get into it, this is not sponsored, this isn't anything, this is literally what I use, and I'm super thankful for XLN Audio for everything that they do, that they've done with this product. It's such an essential instrument to my music. Let's get into it. I'm gonna just drop the solo of the drums. All right, so that's kind of what we got right now. So shout out to the homie Produced by My. He made these Addictive Drums templates that are just really tight kicks, tight snares, tight hi-hats. They kind of, it just feels like jazz, you know what I'm saying? And I think he did a really good job. So I copped this kit, and it's like a bunch of them. And so I've been using that and just kind of reiterating on his kit. And I basically, and he also came with this really dope layout for how you track your drums in Ableton. I'm gonna link that in the description so you can check that out and support him. Essentially what's going on, you have your Addictive Drums, your actual MIDI, you have the actual MIDI track where your actual instrument's gonna live, and then you have your kick, snare, hi-hat, toms, which is segmented in a group. You have your flexi, which is like your clap or your other percussion that you might throw into Addictive Drums, like those little wood blocks, and you have your overhead, room, and bus mic. So that's how I have my setup. Let's kind of get into the actual processing. So I have some processing on the entire drum bus. So I have Pro Q3, Saturator, and then the Ableton's drum bus plugin. I also kind of went a little bit overboard, but it's just a touch of each of these other pieces. We got Decap's Knock plugin. Shout out to Decap. I met bro at Jazzy Jeff's playlist retreat. Man, dude, such a cool dude. Super fly too, man. And he's crazy tall. And he's just a wizard in Ableton. Little Radiator from Sound Toys. This gives the drums this extra bit of like distortion and texture that it just sounds and feels really good. And then I copped the UAD tube compressor, which kind of brings everything together. And yeah, that's pretty much how I have that set up. Now I have a little bit of processing on the kicks and the snare. Oh, I didn't even EQ that hi-hat at all. Oh, that's crazy. The song already out. I ain't EQ the hi-hat at all. What I did do, because the hi-hat feeds through the overhead mic, I did a little bit EQ in there. So I don't have my Maschine right now set up because it's not working anymore. But the way that I programmed these drums was with Maschine. I'm gonna get it real quick because if you have Maschine, this might be helpful. Whenever I plug it in, it just shows the startup screen, and I've tried everything and I can't get past it. So I've essentially been using this as a MIDI controller, but what's been going on, the way that I've programmed my drums, I've set it up in controller editor. So my kicks will be here, my snare will be here, hi-hat will be here. So these are like the main three joints right here. Above the snare, I usually get like the rim shot. The way that I did it in Maschine, I usually grab the strongest snare, the one that plays on D, and then I'll grab the rim shot, which plays on the F sharp, and I will put that in this pad, in pad 6. And essentially the way that the rest of this is laid out, for pad 5, I would use like a flexi percussion. So if I have like a wood block, a hand clap or something like that, that'll go here. 9, 13, 14, 15, and 16. These are all toms, essentially. I set these all to different toms so that way I can just, if I want to do like drum fills, I can do that. if we kind of move over on this side, this is another hi-hat that I have set up. So in the hi-hats, you have different variations, just like the snares. So if I want to add more character to it, or if I want to make it sound even more realistic, to kind of get those different tones from the hi-hat that make it sound more realistic, even when you're using the hi-hats like on a pressure sensitive pad or an MPE pad, you can dial in that pressure so you'll still get different sounds of the hi-hat, which is really dope. That's why I love Addictive Drums, because you can get different variations of one singular note. That could be really hard to program from one-shot samples, but again, Addictive Drums, they're the goats. And last but not least, 12 and 8 are like the crash and the ride cymbal. I think the 12 is the ride and the 8 is the crash cymbal, and 11 is the open hat. I know it's kind of all over the place, but that's just the way my mind works. If you like that template, if you want this MIDI script for your Maschine MK3, I'll drop it in like a little Dropbox link or something in the description. You can have that and mess around with it. Oh, last but not least, 4. 4 is, so if I'm using the ride cymbal, this is the stop symbol. I mean, this is the stop button. So I'll show you. So if I have a like a ride, so that's programmed to the D sharp. So that way I could be like, that way I can get a nice stop to that ride. Yeah, so that's pretty much how I have my Maschine MK3 set up. Let's get into the actual MIDI. I get a lot of questions about this specific snare roll right here. People are like, yeah, yo, did you like actually drum that, like finger that in? Yeah, I did. It was hard. I had to do a lot of different takes. Matter of fact, yeah. I had to do a bunch of different takes to that. I really wanted to feel that drum roll, and it wasn't perfect. I definitely cleaned it up in Ableton. Let me show you what I did after programming these snares in here. The velocities of the snares are all over the place. So you want to start strong and end soft. So with Ableton's ramp feature, instead of having to go in and adjust all of these frequencies, I can select all of the notes, and I can select the highest velocity and the lowest velocity. So that way it naturally falls to that lower velocity without having to manually adjust the velocities. This is the start of the velocity ramp. This is the end of the velocity ramp. The magic in getting good drums is understanding how that snare roll works. Like if you can get a good snare roll, like a good realistic snare roll, them drums they're gonna take your drums from just here to there. So that's how you program a good snare roll. Up to this point, I've shared with you all how I process my drums through the group processing. I've shared with you all how to program a snare roll. Let me show you guys the most efficient way to track your drums, to bring your drums from Addictive Drums, from MIDI to audio, and why you want to do that. So I can be lazy and just leave them all here and let all this be MIDI and not track anything. But the problem with that is you don't get the control that you should have to manage and edit each individual sound. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna highlight all of these. We're gonna highlight our entire chain except the MIDI channel. Select everything to end. You're gonna also click the record button. Oh, there we go. And that's gonna arm each of these tracks. And then all you need to do, hit record. You need to make sure that your tracks are set to separate out post fader. That's gonna send each of these sounds out from Addictive Drums and into Ableton. So that way when you open up a new audio track in the drum bus, you can select Addictive Drums too, and then your next setting right here, which is your input channel, then you'll be able to select each individual instrument from Addictive Drums. Really easy, really simple. And once you do that, you now have the ability to edit and manipulate each of your sounds. I'll show quickly individual drum processing. I don't really do much when it comes to processing my drums individually because the sounds are so good. I just really try to lean in on those sounds. So what I'm doing for the kick, all I'm doing is rolling off those higher frequencies, kind of leaving some of those mid frequencies here, so that way they'll kind of cut through the mix. I got a little saturation going, and this auto filter and Pro Q3, these are set for, you see I got the red dots, so they're automated. I got another filter effect that happens later in the song. I'll show y'all here in a minute. So for the snare, what's happening is that I'm cutting out any of that low, any of the information that's happening below, what frequency is 211 hertz, just so that way we get a nice clean drum sound. Like, the goal is to kind of get rid of any information that you don't need, but you don't want to get rid of too much information that your mix starts to sound dull. So I also got a multi-band dynamic compressor to bring out some of those mid and higher frequencies of the snare. And again, that auto filter, that's important too, which I'll show later. The hi-hat, all I did for the hi-hat was throw this glue compressor on there and sidechain it to the kick to give it that ducking effect each time the kick hits. So I had some toms in here. I don't think I processed the toms at all. I just kind of let them be because they had such a little moment in this song. But so for the hi-hat, like I said earlier, their hi-hats are feeding into the overhead channel. So the hi-hats are feeding into the overhead channel in Addictive Drums. So all I did here was boost some of those higher frequencies. And I got the snare and also the kick kind of coming in as well. I'll let that kind of live. It's so minuscule, I'll solo it. You see that kick is so minuscule, like it kind of adds to the realness of the drums. So I just, I left it in there. Do what feels right, not what makes sense. Other than that, y'all, that's how I mix my drums. I said high pass earlier. I meant low pass. Y'all know what last bit of advice. Get Valve compressor. I got a little bit of parallel compression happening to the drums. I'm sending some of the drums through Valve compressor, which is adding even more texture and more punch to the drums. Yeah. Like, go crazy, man. Put this mug all the way through. Yeah. Nah, don't do that. But well, maybe do it. I mean, if it sound good, do it. Like, ain't no rules to this, man. Like, go crazy. Like, if you want to max out on Valve compressor, put everything at 100%, go crazy. Because listen, if it sounds good, do that. We need more people that just do things because it felt right in the spirit, not because the numbers made sense. If you feeling something, put that out, because I guarantee you other people gonna feel that too. If y'all got any other questions, hit me up, DM me, drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if y'all got any questions. Appreciate y'all for watching. Stay tuned for more. Peace.